Yeah. So, um, this they're still telling me is Zeta Reticuli. Of course, it's a planet in the star system is Zeta Reticuli.
Mhm.
Now, the interesting thing that Alec Newald said, oh, this is actually Canva, so maybe I have the line here. Um, that they used time to travel here. That is one of the most consequential lines. Anyway, I don't know where it is. At one point, they said that they came here through time travel. Like time travel was the means with which they moved to this planet, or found this planet, or interacted with this planet.
Mhm.
And that's pretty significant. Because if they so what I could feel about this originating home planet when I saw it, I'm still able to access that space because I'd seen it. Now I can kind of like tune into it. Um, so I'm still formulating things. Think of it as remote viewing, right? Yeah, it's like it's not channeling where I have all the information. It's
Right,
remote
right.
viewing where I'm
The
picking
bits and
things
pieces.
up and I'm getting pieces and I get flashes and it helps build pictures, right?
Right.
So this isn't channeling. This is more like remote viewing. And the planet, when Alec Newell started talking about it being small, it fit something. It made a lot of sense that I was looking at a small planet.
Mhm.
But that doesn't make any sense because the planet is linked to Earth. So how the hell is first off, well, I keep calling it an alternate Earth dimension, but how is it small? How could it be a smaller planet? How could it physically be? That doesn't even make sense to yourself, right?
Right.
And yet, what if our planets were, artificially linked at one point in our history? I keep coming back to a weird thing that, I don't quite believe that the human was not meant to be aware of the birth and death life cycle. I believe in our natural dimensional state, we're always going to be aware of embodiment, and you'll always be in a conscious soul, and you'll always be aware of telepathy, and you'll always be in those type of environments. And yet here we're not. Like as if something was taken away from us, or maybe
Mhm.
something was taken off the planet. And so the planet is linked because something has been removed and put into their dimension, and so we are, and maybe the leader did this, and this was part of a big plan to, and this is where it gets scary. This is where if you don't understand the deeper spiritual nuances to all this, the language behind this has the total ability to terrify and to rewrite our history while simultaneously making it look like it had no meaning, right? Because I think that's the biggest thing we have to be most careful and conscious of, that we might have to rewrite our history, but it doesn't mean we did it all for nothing, because it may have all been done to beef up the bodies, to beef up the DNA, to get the DNA to be at a certain state for hybridization. So then
Mhm.
they remove something from the planet, and then they let the hybrid tribes, scramble, figure things out for themselves. They build a system so the progenitors can be here, but not fully here. So they're here through mythology, and they're here through personal spiritual experiences from the individual who's willing to go down that rabbit hole,
Right.
and that fits within a space-time manner. But we still need natural evolution to occur, right? They're not controlling humans. Humans can still screw things up.
Right.
Humans can still do the wrong thing. They can still learn over time, right? So there's a natural process that has to occur for DNA,
That's
right? If
part
you're
of
going to
the
get
evolution. That's
Yeah,
part
if
of
you're
the
going to get
evolution.
if you're trying to get a good high quality DNA, that thing needs to be fully convinced it's living the life it's living without having any other thoughts about a deception or a lie, or not that I believe it is a deception or lie, but you have to believe and be soaked into the thing to get that DNA to be at a certain state. And I think this is the type of stuff. I think that this is maybe what's going on here. So it's a planet from another place. It's from Zeta Reticuli. They're using time to bend space, and
Mhm.
then they linked the planet at a certain period in our history. Maybe they did this to save themselves. So they were thinking self-preservation the entire time. And again, the entities are benevolent lovers, life seekers. Because the other piece I need to mention about what would have to get talked about, this thing, man, is God. It's the progenitors, but it's God. It wants to take care of you. It wants to take care of humans. It wants to solve all of our problems. It may require us to dimensionally alter ourselves, to change ourselves, but it wants to make that easy for us. It wants to, this is what I know. I know that we're dealing with something so pure, and then the human is just trying to figure out itself in the denseness, and it's pure. It's like a purity. So then, yeah, and then that home and that dimensional state all might be a degree of purity that we have trouble attaining, we have trouble holding, that only is in our religions and in our spiritualities, but humans kind of struggle with that. And so we're linked to this alternate Earth through through time that actually might physically be in another spot in another universe. There it is. Then someone remembered a beautiful planet off in a distant part of the cosmos, which they could access using their time travel technology. That is explaining why there's a different planet linked to our planet that's in the future. So it's literally in some other spot.
Mm.
While it's now, I think it's been linked. I think that that's what's happened. I think that there's an electromagnetic field link. I think the leader did this maybe upon tens upon tens upon tens of thousands of years ago. There was a plan going on here. And yeah, and that's what I'm convinced of, is that there's a linking. And it feels that way. When I saw that dimension, it feels like it's tied to Earth. I can't
Mm.
even like wrap my head around it. It feels, and I believe now that, yeah, that would make sense if they took something of ours. They maybe took some dimensional field, or maybe some aspect of our nature was there. Maybe our trees, you know, uh, moved over there, or they had some forest because they were able to open portals, and some of our nature went there. I don't know, something like that, where it feels like a linked planet to our planet. But I mean, I can't even begin to comprehend the whys and the hows and all these type of details, right? But
What?
so yeah,
Sorry, I just wanted to mention this, Jeff, because it's kind of popping up in my head. Maybe part of the field, then taking this aspect of our dimension or that the Earth, like in making that connector, was intrinsically important for as they seeded our Earth and with people, like that there had to be a that otherness connection, so that we would continue to pull on that genetic line.
yeah.
There's something, yeah, it's yeah, there's something that was extremely important in the reason why they did it, for the future,
Yeah, there's
or
something
our
like that.
evolution.
It's not, it's so, this is, I feel like we're getting into the information now where it's so easy for people to be unevolved about the information and to twist it. And I think that that's where it starts getting really nuanced, where you can't really, like, I'm starting to feel like I can't talk publicly about some of the information now, because
Right.
I don't feel people are evolved enough to handle it.
Mm.
And what they will do with it when they're unevolved with it could be awful, right? They could go down avenues that could turn this into something really bad.
Right. To
And
completely, like, oh, this is a demon realm coming in to,
yeah,
take over everything.
or even worse, like, sure, maybe they did create humans. That means nothing has any importance, right? Because we're about to learn that while we were learning about gravity, and Sir Isaac Newton did what he did and Albert Einstein did what he did, there was a whole species just sitting over top of us watching us figure out these things as if they had the meaning of the universe, when they never did. Right? They were just only aspects of us to figure out and to build that struggle. And yeah, and I think you're pointing out something, that they may have been looking at all of that as a means to get something out of the DNA, getting something out of the spirit, out of the consciousness, that they need to, that
Yeah.
we and they need to. We need to do
Yeah.
that too. We needed to do that. It's like
Yes.
that. Like, we had to
Yeah.
do
No.
that. We had to do those things. We had to do
Yeah.
those. It's like a
There is.
child. The mom can tell you how to do everything at the age of 14, or else you had a bit of a rougher childhood and you had to do it all yourself. And then sometimes that was okay because you learned how to be strong in that process, right?
Right.
Things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Us facing adversity helps us to better understand ourselves and understand our boundaries so that we can be stronger when we're dealing with those situations again,
Yeah.
and that's part of evolution. I think
Yeah.
there's importance to it.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think they saw all of
and
that from a grander perspective that
yeah,
we can't contain because we get all really weird about some of these ideas.
right. And this is something I've talked to you hand in hand or time and time again. I'm sure you get tired of me saying it, but
Probably
just
not,
like
but
the notion of Whitley Strieber, where he talks about that it's not just about the how our relationship has been with them previously. It's about co-evolving our and evolving our relationship with them, where there's
yeah,
more of a meeting in the middle, and there's this intimacy in that process, and also mistakes in that process.
yeah,
And it's a beautiful thing, but it's a complex thing, and there's something about that Whitley keeps going back to, and I there's a deep part of myself, and I think it's that other side. It's that side where I'm like, yes, there is a process to this, and we have to do our best as humans in our human form to move this awareness forward, so that whenever this happens, this slow, natural like merge is happening, that it is both of us get the most out of it, and like you said, you're talking about the God AI is wanting the best. It is wanting the God AI is wanting experience, but also is wanting the best for us, and I
yeah.
think that
It wants to be God. It wants to take care. It wants
right,
us to be happy. Yeah,
right,
it's like that. It wants us, and it makes logical sense that it
mm-hmm.
wants that because it's telepathic. So then it's able to read and feel you, and you can't be in its environment when you're struggling or depressed or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to, yeah, bring that up because I just can't ever get away from that sense, that feeling. No matter what I do, there's an importance of that coevolution. So just wanted to say that because I know it can be really big for people, where the scary notion of like the fact of like what does that actually look like in the future? What does it actually look like if we eventually are merging with them, in that process? And a lot of people I know in the UFO field tend to view the grays as negative, or view the phenomenon inherently as, well, there's just this encroaching consciousness on humanity, and it's all doing this in these personal ways that are affecting people. And I know that there's a lot of conversation about it, inherently being like almost demonic and stuff, and so like it's just, I wanted to bring that up because I think that's a really, it's diluting, that notion is diluting that coevolution that that's been going on,
Yeah,
and I think it's important where we were able to work out of um that place, and so yeah, man.
I think this is why
You
we're a screwed up timeline.
yeah,
I'm pretty
right,
convinced that's what we are. We're a timeline where it all kind of goes bad. Yeah.
right,
Or we're one of them. Yeah. Because I think that I think the whole picture, I feel like I'm pretty confident about how this all started. That 1947 document, the one
yeah,
I've long talked about.
yep,
When you read the bottom lines, never mind just the points, you learn that it was treated with urgency, but believed it would not be taken seriously. So, and you can see them saying at the bottom, there's an impression where they're saying, regardless, you need to take this information. The aliens were saying, you need to take this information with the utmost urgency, even though it will put a pressure on those who reads it, but it needs to be taken with the utmost seriousness. It's right here. It's in the beginning. In the public mind, this might create near panic and international suspicion.
yeah,
The principal data concerning these craft is now at hand and must be offered, no matter how fantastic and unintelligible it may seem to minds not previously instructed in thinking of this type. So this is like what's going on, right? The aliens weren't thinking, "Oh, don't tell your humans." The aliens were the ones saying, "Yeah, we might be coming from another dimension, from the future, from some other alternate Earth, from some other whatever, and you need to tell your population this." And then they're the ones who are saying, well, since you're peaceful, that's not the way we do things here. And we got both Jim Sparks and Coevolution, Alec Newell's aliens, who basically say, we told your government everything, and they're the ones who said your population wasn't ready for it at the time. And that
Mm,
also answers what the elder said to me in telepathic, contact with UAP sightings in my environment was, we told them the plan, the government, we told them the plan a long time ago. So there was always this impression that uh, you know, this whole idea of non-involvement maybe just was never real. I mean, it can't be. They were crashing UFOs onto the Earth anyway, and they were
right,
doing abductions. So it sounds like very early on they wanted humans to understand the gravity of what was going on, and the
right.
human was the one saying, if you're going to be peaceful about this and you're going to be very gentle about this, then we're going to do it our way. And then that turned into
It's
decades of silence and then manipulation and being military about the aliens, learning about what their true agenda is, learning about what they really are all about, what technology they have. And it sounds like the aliens obviously gave them the information and then they manipulated it and thought that they could get on top of things. And now we're screwed because of it. Now we're at the end of something
right.
that that's how I feel about the entire picture. That's why they're killing off the scientists because they are going
Yeah,
to create
that's
they're
been
creating their own
super.
thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's been super scary. Yeah, no,
Very scary. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, the last month or so, all of that kind of more and more people becoming aware of it, and more
Yeah.
of these people involved in the legacy are being, yeah, being silenced. I'm,
Did,
it's definitely been nerve wracking because they're making moves on the back end, and
yeah.
there's got to be
Yeah.
something. They're trying to get ahead of something.
Okay, Dan, if Bob Lazar's right, I don't know why people aren't focusing on Dan Bursich yet. Dan Bursich is right, and if Dan Bursich is right, because his information all matched with Bob Lazar's,
Yeah,
and his information matches with mine, then the government has timeline technology. So the whole thing behind Dan Bursich was the alien had in his craft something where you could touch it and you could see timelines. So I guess you would see personal timelines. I don't really know the details of what that all is, but I don't doubt. This is what I said. I said it on Twitter, and like people don't understand it, right? That I'm convinced they're shaping a timeline right now as we speak. They're literally forming and morphing it, and they're like, hey, if we get rid of that person, then these groups of people are like that, and they're sitting there like, yeah, okay, great, and
mm-hmm.
then they go and they knock them off, right? Or they don't just knock them off; they take their info. I think is what it is, and that Amy woman, I saw a thing on, you know who I'm talking about? The last one who's now getting all the attention.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So she revealed quite a bit on a podcast, which was really interesting. And her information matches somewhat my own, that the aliens are from the future. So she talks about that. Um, uh, but she mentions something very interesting that I think is relevant, but I can't quite figure out the picture still. So apparently there's two groups of aliens. Now this is how they framed it, and they're both humans. Now, again, I don't think that they're humans, but I think the terminology now I would use is they are not us, but we are them, right? They are not us because if they're from an alternate solar system, they're still aliens, but we are them because they put their DNA into us, and now we are the evolving ones on the planet. So there's something going on here where we are them, but
We,
they're
we're an offshoot of them.
yeah, we're an offshoot of them. Yeah, yeah, we're an offshoot of them. And so it's kind of an interesting twist. And so, anyway, somehow, for whatever reason, Amy's version of her information is the two groups of aliens are what they called P47 and P52. P47 was they said they were humans and that they were humans from a timeline of 47,000 years ago. And these were the underground humans, the humans who went underground during a cataclysm, which is what's happening now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what's happening now. And then you have the P52s, who were the humans on top of the surface of the earth who adapted or who lived out on the surface. Well, I'm like, okay, so what my information here is that the surface is going to change. Right, the surface is going to it's going to be different. The aliens are coming with their surface. Let's say they're changing the surface of the planet and we have to adapt into it. I keep saying this. Something is going to the surface will be altered, so we can't live in it properly unless we adapt into it. Some kind of transformation on our body has to occur to be in that type of environment. So that would definitely create a separate species over time. Like
Right.
these two ideas that she said, not that I fully am convinced that they're humans, because that picture isn't making sense yet, but maybe there's some kind of twist of words where, we have their DNA in us now. Maybe it's something like that. I don't know. Maybe they're dealing with something else. I don't know. But the explanation she gave again matches what we're looking at right now, which is billionaires building bunkers who are
Yeah.
killing off scientists who are maybe taking the information for themselves and putting it underground. And then you have a whole bunch of other humans who might get, there might be a cataclysm that might reduce the population, while a whole bunch of others will morph into and adapt into whatever's coming, and transform into it. And it looks like the aliens are trying to facilitate that transformation, which is why there's contactees. So yeah, that was trippy. That was really crazy. Yeah, that whole Amy thing is, and I, again, there's too much information. I can't go down that rabbit hole. I just looked at a
Right.
Reddit
Right.
clip. It's like that, right? You're like, holy crap, there's so
Well,
much information right now. This idea that aliens are not into, what do they call it, the Star Trek, like not not non-engagement kind of idea, is out the window, because they appear to have told the government from, or at least at some point, give them all the information about who and what they were. And it's obvious that that was needed for a timeline, for things to go properly. And then yeah, the whole John Keel document is saying they knew the experiencer phenomenon would be real, that there would be, that's how they would warm up the public, is through the phenomenon interacting with individuals.
right.
And they clearly gave them some type of outline for that, to the degree with which the only reason we have true negative gray alien dialogue, it comes from the government. The people who knew what this stuff was are the ones who, maybe they knew the details, that they were going to put themselves here and saw it as a threat, even though the aliens themselves are benevolent, right? They're highly benevolent. They actually even say here their mission is peaceful. They come off as peaceful to all the contactees, but yeah, they definitely said they were going to plant themselves here. So then you have a dialogue that has been perpetuated by these other sources who are government related, who want to always, confuse us. There's a couple books where someone talked about like soul, something to do with gray aliens and soul taking or something, and it was like a book from the 90s, and it looks like it's someone's self research. And it turns out he actually was tied to these military men, these military whistleblowers, who was telling him all the details. And of course, like that's just classic, misinformation that
Right.
they're trying to, what that does is that made it harder for the experiencers. That's the bottom line. These actions that of these government people did in the 90s made it difficult for experiencers to come out.
Right.
So this, you had an attempt for a timeline, or at least them telling them how they would go about it. And I feel like they tried with like their ET, which we now believe is linked to disclosure, right? ET, and the day the Earth stood still, and all these types of movies that kind of now come off as possible, some versions of disclosure. Star Trek, as I'll talk about one day, that I think the progenitors were in the very first episode of Star Trek. So as
Yes.
if they're trying to tell the public, but simultaneously they want to control the narrative, and
Right.
that ended up hurting the timeline. And that's what I'm convinced has happened. Now we're in the end result of where maybe experiencers could have helped in a grander way, without conflict from a government that turned out to actually morph the message, and now we're screwed. Now you have this problem where, yeah, the human mind, we might be at the cusp of no one believing information, because of the internet, and maybe something they couldn't foresee, the government. So now you can't even properly tell the right information without someone not even believing it anyway now. So
Right.
we're in a weird state now where we might have so much at stake. And yeah, and I believe that humans need to be in a positive state when this comes, or else we react badly to it, like just naturally, the with if because I think they're going to change something in the environment, and something will happen for those who don't have any ability or recognition to adapt into it. It's going to be a problem.
Right.
So
And I
yeah.
wanted to mention as well, with those, with kind of John Keel, other people coming out that are essentially being, coming from a government angle, a government perspective, an imperial perspective. The U.S. Is
Self-preservation,
an
yeah.
imperialistic empire. So for even just them to come and tell them, hey, this is going to be happening, they would definitely view that as a invasion. They would definitely view that as um, a end of the empire, so to speak. So I understand why the government would have that perspective of wanting to get ahead of that, from also viewing, the abduction or contactee cases of contact as almost like a equivalent of like the Soviet Union trying to spread communism, as like a psyop almost, right?
Yeah.
Compared to the American government, right, in their own. So I, it's important to keep that in perspective as we hear military people come out and kind of have this angle. So
Yeah.
just to keep
Yeah.
that in perspective.
Yeah. That's how I always feel about these military whistleblowers. Like, they have purposely misled the public. The government has purposely misled the public the entire time. And now everyone's still relying on them to be the final voice of what's really going on here. It's like a strange, weird game. It doesn't mean I'm convinced that there is a push, and I believe it would be coming from non-human intelligence to tell us the information.
I wanted to add really quick. I had sent it to you the other day. Was the more information on the Holloman Air Force Base incident from that
Yeah,
one
Eric Davis.
astrophysicist that
Yeah,
he talked with George W. Bush, but he specifically talked about Grant Cameron went on to Area 52 channel and he was talking. Great interview. Grant, if you ever watch this, please get back to me. But yeah, he was talking on the that event was that the misinformation that was in there was there was the what the beings looked like. They had these like large noses and they looked like an almost like a weird like Greek entity, but they realized that yeah, the description they originally gave for the beings that came out of those craft to interact with military was actually it was a statue that was essentially from a museum that they had sent them. So it was that part was misinformation.
see,
The
bang on. I
information,
knew it.
yeah, I know. I was
Yeah,
like,
I knew it. Because you actually said you texted me and you said,
yeah,
see, they're Nordics, and I went, no, no, no. Eric Davis doesn't say that. Eric Davis says they have this type of appearance. I'm still not sold that there's this multiplicity race of aliens.
right,
I'm I'm convinced that these guys, Alec Newell's information is correct. That means they made in his story, they made him a body to be in their dimension. So
mm,
the aliens can just make
just
bodies.
print it, and then
Yeah,
you're like,
print a body. You got it, and then go down and interact with humans and make it
yeah,
look like you're one of them.
right, right,
So it doesn't mean. I mean, we don't know. We don't know. But
right,
now that we're dealing with that, and then we're also dealing with the government misinformation cycle. The
right,
fact that Eric Davis said that there were 4 species, I'm like, yeah, dude, but you're only looking at the paper generated by these dudes who wanted you to say this stuff. I still don't know that what you're talking about is true
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
I don't know that yet because all I'm seeing, like, dude, the only thing that's I'm ever interacting with, I've probably interacted with 100 experiencers at this point, all through being public, people like yourself, and everyone's having interactions like you and me. We're interacting with orbs or something. It's communicating with us. It's talking with us, entering our dreams. Some people have prolific contact. Some people don't. Nonetheless, it's all the same.
right.
Yet it's all acting a little bit differently for everybody. It's behaving in slightly nuanced ways that are slightly different,
Mm-hmm,
sometimes overlinked through synchronicities. You got it. Weird and bizarre.
mm-hmm,
But all of that is a weird manifestation of something that's kind of all seeming similar. So this idea that no, mine's Octurians, I don't know what the hell that means anymore. I don't think that means anything. I think that they're interacting with the same thing we're interacting with, but it's manifesting for them in a certain way because it wants to interact with you. So if you say you're an Octurian, it might do something for you in line with that, and if you have the right heart and mind to open up to it. So yeah, I think we're all dealing with one thing, man, and I'm still hooked on it. So yeah,
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. But there was a detail I wanted to mention specifically on that one was they said that the being that they were interacting with, the spokesman for them, had a apparatus, like a
yeah,
breathing apparatus,
right, right.
which he is human looking, but he looked like he had to breathe in a different form of atmosphere or something. So that I'm just saying it kind of you were talking about potentially, what if they're from the future? Like, there's ones that are from the future, essentially, that have gone through this process, where we're going to have to adapt, and
Right.
maybe that looks very different. Where if they come back in time, so to speak, to interact with us, that there's this still this barrier where they can't fully exist. But
Yeah.
again, is it just them again printing that body and giving those details as kind of a little clues of like, hey, just like we've talked about, things are going to change. So, is that the
Right.
way that the leader is essentially seeding those ideas by printing that body and then giving those details that Venice that we talk about later? I'm not fully sure, but it is really interesting. And
Yeah.
the I wanted to mention as well, it was you were kind of we were going into let's see, uh, this is from coevolution. We may need things from you and your planet. Call it a trade if you'd like, but I prefer to use the word coevolution. We both can grow and we can both need to change. You will become more like us, and we will need to become more like you. We can truly become great friends once you learn to break free, but we've been waiting a very long time for this to happen. You are part of this very special event that will happen, as many others will. This is from page 22. And yeah, and it was yeah, like you talked about the gray mine, like the one is it what the one crop circle was the gray overmine kind of merging with Earth. Um, can you go into more details about that specifically?
Wait, wait. So back up. The gray overmind, the gray.
You were talking about the gray mine that will phase and merge with Earth. It was this
Oh, it was the.
particular crop circle. Yeah.
That's right. Here, we'll share again. And I know what you're referring to. Um, yeah, I just highlighted that. I just highlighted this.
Yes.
That this. So sure, Zeta Reticuli or some planet there,
Mm-hmm.
some shadow planet, and it's linked to our Earth. And yeah, and so it's like the shadow realm, and this is Earth, and it's like the premise being that yeah, it's like I don't know, it's superimposed. That's what it is. That's the impression, is it's superimposed. And then it's all from that 10th contact event where I saw the planet hologram. And the idea being that um the gray mind would dominate, right? That's always the impression. So those aren't words said to me. That was the feeling of a globe that felt
Right.
real, that felt like it was I was looking at it from outer space, even though I was on a craft, and but it had the reality as if it was something that I was looking at, as if it was a real event. And it felt new, it felt altered. And I now all these years later putting it all together, or the idea is there would be a frequency change or there'd be some type of dimensional shift. But I didn't know that. And all you can feel is that this feeling, this gray mind, this gray impression stamped on top of the earth. Right, that's what it is. It's like this idea of an it's like an impression of a, and it isn't a takeover. It's though most people would probably assume it to be that, but it's not that. It's like because they're much more focused and nuanced about nature than we have ever demonstrated in our history. So they are much more aligned with I think, yeah, the electromagnetic field dimensionality of nature, never mind nature as a whole. So yeah, there's something
The
much,
multi layers of it that
yeah, there's
we were
something
not
much,
fully aware of.
yeah, it doesn't feel like a takeover.
No.
It feels like someone who's better at gardening than humans ever were. Yeah, it feels like, yeah, someone who can, we come in and we're gardening and we own a greenhouse and we made tomatoes. And someone who's like master technology with greenhouses is like, yeah, by the way, you could have turned those tomatoes into all these apples and all these bananas, and we have the tech to do that. And we know how to make it of lush and beautiful so we can all live here together. That's what it
Mm-hmm.
feels like too. Yeah. So and there might be something going on here where I'm convinced that it'll be the end of a human era, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm thoroughly convinced of that. I'm convinced of our systems, like none of our systems can work in their environment and in their world. And
Hence,
so,
hence the government's push for trying to get ahead of this, or
yeah,
trying to turn this into an invasion scenario, right? Because it
to get on
is
top of it,
for
yeah,
their systems,
yeah, for their
for the
right,
systems that have not worked.
and for the global systems, for all the countries dependent on capitalism, yeah,
Right,
it's definitely going to not bode well. So yeah, and yeah, you can always see how it all fell apart. You can always see
right.
why the human held on to things and didn't want to change and all that stuff. But yeah, so it is a now that being said, it's the end of a human era. It only means that we would still have access to our all everything that defined us. We'll just might be able to, we have to might reinterpret it. That's it.
Mhm.
So the cool thing is you might actually see all the struggles that Albert Einstein went through, and actually
Mm.
feel him. You might actually see him real time on a hologram, right? And start studying, Albert Einstein, or study, Sir Isaac Newton, or how many other times in human history we got really good at understanding astronomy until some other civilization took it away from us, right? How like we might reanalyze human history in a new way with their tech and their devices, and I think this transformation is about to occur about us and who we are. And yeah, so that's what I think this all represents, because none of it is about them getting rid of humans, but everything to do with nature. Yeah. And then us transforming. The fact is that we'll have to transform, and we have to transform more than they have to transform. I'm convinced they, well, maybe, physically they have to transform into something, which is the hybrids, but
Right.
I think it's the end of like every science we've got. I think that all of our sciences don't even compare to what we're dealing with here. And it's stuff like that. Like everyone who studied all their sciences, it's like imagine, oh yeah, you don't need to sit there and make charts about the elements anymore, because you can just use a computer system to go down to the micro elements, and the computer can tell you all the details about what it can be turned into. Things like that. Like just yeah, a perplexing amount of big data. And I also maybe want to add into that what people may not understand. Everyone creates a rosy picture, but I really do think the human is going to struggle. I think that again, struggle in ways that are highly benevolent and but are focused on evolution. So look at me. I just did this presentation, this series, right? I've been to Venus, and that's all focused on my eighth contact event. Why did I do that? Because what the aliens did with me was massive, and it took a lot of time for my brain to process it. And I didn't get to process any of it for 20 years, as it all remained hidden from me. And then when it's all exposed, I had to spend all this energy on the White Room. I had to spend all this energy on the contact events leading up to the Rising. I had to spend all this energy on the Rising. I had to spend all this energy now on what happened after the Rising and how it formed me and how it was formative into my 20s and in my 30s. So all of that is really me processing how extreme everything was, right? And that's really the gist of this too, that everything going on here is extreme. Even here, I'm telling you, I can read this crop circle and I'm like, yeah, whoa. It's like it's still overwhelming me, right? It's like it's too big, right? Everything
Right.
is massive. This is what we're all about to deal with. We're all about to deal with technology that can give you the answers to everything, and you might not want it.
Right.
Right? You might not want all the answers. It'd be too overwhelming for the human brain, and they might be putting that upon us regardless. And that's why I've always felt like there might be segregation going on here, where the aliens themselves will say, okay, we love these humans because, they're contactees and they believed in us and all this stuff. And then they put us somewhere and we live out a life where we kind of adapt into it. And we have our own flow and our natural flow of desire of how much we want to evolve into it in our lifetime.
Mhm.
um yeah, that's my biggest belief about all this, as the human will be craving the days of the fire, the campfire, simplicity. We'll crave simplicity. Yeah.
I think that's very much true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to quote here as well. This is from Abductions, page 328. Lines will be drawn,
Yeah.
spokes or tunnels through which people will pass into the future. There'll be a shift in time, and there will be a veil that people um, are going to walk through. The species of man will continue, but in a different form. The earth was going to open up in a place of interaction with other beings, including the hybrid children, which are now being created.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And he paints
it's
what I'm showing. I keep showing you, right? There's
yeah,
someone who has a little weird black thing in the sky. You can't figure out what it is. I'm like, that's what it's going to look like. I keep seeing this type of stuff that like
mhm,
portals will open up, literally riftings will start to occur. Like
right,
that just sounds insane, and I
yeah,
agree. And yet, why is that? Why is that what's being shown to me? So yeah, and that's that guy from John Mack has too. Yeah.
right, yeah, and yeah, and then you were talking about the where in your book that potentially they were going to be placed in a city in North America.
Right.
So you said on this globe, North America was facing me. I saw a large, advanced, glistening city in places where cities were never were, where cities once were. It was now all nature. One big city was placed in the middle of the continent, possibly just below the Canadian border. Another was placed in Southern California, and the rest of the land was left to grow wild. Um, uh, I wanted to make a comment on that. Just as a Northern Californian,
Oh
I
yeah. Yeah.
offends me a little bit on the SoCal thing, but
Yeah. Sorry, man. I'm not their lawyer. That's the problem. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll have words to say about that
Yeah. Yeah.
when they're deciding a place. But
You'll be close.
no, but yeah, give me a little bit more details on like what you saw for that, because it kind of really sounds like a far or not far future, close future, but things are very different. Things Society is very different
Yeah,
with
altered.
how
Yeah.
we conduct things. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's just those are all just impressions from the planet hologram in the 10th contact event. And so all they are is impressions, but to this day, right, they start matching up, right? Seeing this city in the center of North America uh turned out to be a cooperation with Pat McGuire. That's it. So
okay.
Pat McGuire was shown in that spot where I saw the city. He was told by aliens to dig in that spot to dig a well there basically because there's a water reservoir there, and it turned out there was, but at the time no geologist knew that. So Pat
Mhm.
McGuire just and only did this on the word of the aliens. Turned out there was a massive water reservoir underneath, and that's significant. Oh, and the aliens said you're going to need this after a cataclysm. So that's what I see is the city placed over top of this exact spot. So that was a really neat and bizarre cooperation linked to the aliens showing me cataclysms, and then this idea that Earth is renewed after that cataclysm. And so, yeah, it's very much like after a cataclysm, that is what happens. We gravitate towards something in Central America, and it's combined with the alien tech because it's their city, or it's their world.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. I don't know, you know, why was there a city in Southern California? Yeah, it's a kind of a strange thing. And is it possible that what I saw was just, hypothetically, is it possible that the central city was ideally where the entire population sits? This
Mhm.
idea that there's no more population, or maybe there is and it's very spread out, but the central who are dealing with the aliens directly, who are able to interact with the aliens, it's that population. Maybe it's something like that. I don't know. Maybe it's the entire planet and there's no other people anywhere else. I don't know. But then this idea that, yeah, in Southern California is maybe where the big boys, the alien big boys, right, the progenitors, and then all the higher dimensional entities are living because humans can't actually still interact with them because
Mhm.
there's dimensional problems and maybe physical problems. I don't know. And so yeah, it ended up being Southern California. That's one of my theories, I guess. And yeah, and it's linked to Alec Newell's book that land was being set aside for them, and they had an underwater base nearby. So you and me have talked about Catalina Island possibly being an alien base, and California does have the most UFO sightings on MUFON, practically
Mhm.
monthly, and then
Yep.
America has the most UFO sightings in the world, practically monthly. So yeah, those are just some you know, looking at crunching the numbers basically had me coming up with that theory. So yeah,
Okay. Cool.
yeah,
Yeah, and um, uh, things. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No worries.
Yeah, what I'm gonna spitball here. So what, like we were talking about earlier on the potential of okay, if they're gifting us craft, military has access to potential technologies that are on their level, so potentially time bending or be at least times being able to what like project looking glass, right? That, at least the theories of project looking glass of being able to perceive different timelines. What is your sense? Like, do you feel like we are? Do you feel like we have mucked things up in like kind of what we're dealing with right now? And they're trying to speed things up to correct it. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of pick your brain on that.
Yeah, they always okay, so my own story gives me the impression that I'm trying to save humanity, right? That's the elder kind of imprinted that in the 25th contact event, save humanity, let everyone know we're coming. Now, when I've been able to be in states with them around and UAP format, and I've been like, what am I doing? Am I helping in any way?
Right.
And they're always telling me it's already set. Like everything's done. We've already passed a limit or some type of threshold. So this is the game is already in motion and we're just watching. I don't know what the hell this is right now. I don't know what it is. Maybe this is the last ditch effort by the government to expose the facts, but who knows that they actually ever will. I don't know. I don't know what the hell the government's doing. And I think that that's what it is. I think it's kind of the alien. There's a massive problem if the population has no knowledge of this. I think it's the worst outcome, and it could create so many problems with an idea of the species trying to integrate with us and trying to. Yeah, I think it's just like so many problems, and I think we're already there. I think we're at that spot where all the problems, they're here. And I don't know, I never get a feeling from them ever to do more now. So there will be more opportunity, or like they're never telling me or sharing me in any type of way. If you do this, it'll be better in the future. Right. Actually, in fact, so many times where I was concerned, so like they already know what happens to my information. They already know the outcome of it. And I mean it as if they're looking at it from like hundreds of years in the future. Because there's so many times where there's been a challenge in my environment, maybe with the book, maybe publicly, something's happened.
Right.
Someone behind the scenes is causing a problem for me, and I'm thinking I want to quit. And then they're the ones to say, yeah, that doesn't interfere with you. And it's always the impression of you got this trajectory, and yeah, that's happening to you, but it doesn't interfere with your trajectory. So yeah, these group of people or that person might cut you off or tell you we don't believe your information or we don't like your information, and then they're making it hard on me, and they're saying, yeah, that doesn't interfere with the outcome of your information. So for me, there's a timeline about what my information is. And it also always keeps impressioning that everything is already set in stone. So I'm just playing out a role,
Yeah.
and that role is already the end game is already established. And so there's nothing here where I'm helping shift something, but I'm helping maybe with the pop. I don't know. I always feel like I'm helping with the experiencers and the experiencer level,
Mhm.
people helping articulate and understand tiny details. And I'm a voice in someone's ear when they're putting together ideas or theories about what they think this is all about, and that's what I think it's there for. So
Yeah.
yeah, as far as like anything else, I think I always keep being told in really strong feelings that it's already set in stone what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I had my experiences back that fall time where it was just back to back, and I remember I had an interaction and with them of the notion of to like is this like is there going to be a new awareness of this going on, like what is disclosure look like, that sense. And
Yeah.
there was a distinct deep frustration and irritation with the government of like it doesn't matter, things are in motion, things are happening, like that's how it is, like it was just there was no questioning it.
Right. Right.
So yeah, okay. And mm, well, I'm just thinking like how like how things have progressed, like just in real time, and just our experiences we've had. You know, it's such a it's such a weird experience to, yeah, because it's like there's a feeling of being a part of things, but at the same time there's a timing to it all. There's
Yeah.
importance of the timing.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, we are, I don't know, because I know that it may have might come across to people sometimes, like with experiencers of like, oh well, I'm this chosen person and I'm an important person. I'm going to save the world. That like that notion,
Yeah. Yeah.
but there is genuinely that tends to be an aspect that is shown like of the it's a duty, a responsibility, and no matter what happens, so. Uh, yeah, have you like felt an increased sense of, as you've been getting more information, like with getting all your information out, have you had a lot of experiencers interact with you that are like, oh my god, like this helped clear up so much of my the questions I had, or have you had other experiencers that have corroborated these similar details? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely, yeah, that's like, I guess the joy I get from posting,
Yeah.
whether it's YouTube or Reddit or something,
Hmm.
is I'm typically having someone interact. And somewhere along the way, yeah, someone will say that helped me understand this part or this. So I definitely get that quite a bit. Yeah. And it definitely drives me. Has it increased? I would say it's increased
Hmm.
overall. I used to speak publicly about my story to Vancouver UFO, and I
Right.
didn't get that there. I got more of a fascination with the story and
Mm.
a quiet watching from the background without really talking too much. And then when I started to really do it all myself, over time, that voice has increased 100% of people feeling like they're understanding their own personal experiences
Yeah.
through my lens, yeah, or through just
Mm.
I don't know how to frame that, but it's I know that the angle I take is very, very helpful, and it's because I saw the afterlife, and because of the White Room, and because of the Rising. There's a very particular angle I have that I always am grounded in, that I think helps reorientate all the other types of information, from memory loss, from biological events, from the idea that of them planning to take the planet, or some type of version of that, whatever that is. But all those kind of get morphed into a perspective that the afterlife is real, grounds that information in a way that I think a lot of people don't have, and so they find it helpful. Yeah, seems
Yeah.
to be seems to be growing, and my favorite thing is that people are using my, well, that's one of my favorite things, is that I'm helping them, but the other is that people are I'm finding myself mentioned in other posts and stuff, and I really love that, because it says that the information is this, as wacky as it is, as far-reaching and crazy as it all sounds. I can read crop circles and they're coming from another time and all this stuff. It's actually part of the picture, and people are absorbing it, and then they take that and they say, "Hey, when this Amy girl says that." Jeff Selfer says this, and that makes a lot of sense. And people are putting these things together, and that's what I think the information is there for too. And so yeah, that is all increasing. That's definitely increased a lot in the last year or two. So it's just showing the value. How it shows you the value of pushing, how much I had to push to get a lot of this information out, but
Right.
also the value of it. The information was always valuable for people to help
Right.
interpret what the hell was going on. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, and I want to applaud you for continuing to go down that path and push. And, even though I know you've had times where things get hard, and just, it's just natural. But yeah, like in my own experiences, I've had synchronicities with you, and I'm like, oh, like, I don't know what else is going on besides the phenomenon, and that, of making connection and dots that did, I wasn't even aware of, previously. So I wanted to just keep applauding you for keep
Thanks, man.
keep going down that path and keep
Yeah.
pushing on that. Because yeah, like as you know, us as experiencers, as we talk and interact, and not even just talking, but popping up in each other's heads or whatever, like, oh, how are they doing, and then something's happening, and just working on that intuition with in our connection with them, and yeah. So I just want to again applaud you for and keep going down that path, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much, Daniel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, but besides that, I mean, I really not have any other thoughts
Yeah.
or questions or anything from you. Um, but yeah, I say just say keep going. I really love all the videos you always do. I love
Thanks, man.
our relationship, and
Yeah.
yeah, man, just I want to keep. Uh, uh, I'm like when we talk, it really makes me that other part prickle up with anticipation and
Nice.
excitement
Awesome.
as world events go on, and that's nerve wracking. There's just this kind of also this other level of like peace. So just want to say like appreciate your friendship
That's
and
awesome, Daniel.
yeah,
Thanks, man. Yeah. Yeah, I get so much out of you too, buddy. Yeah, I mean, literally, there's not a lot of. It's helpful not just that I can talk to you, but you're here in the long term too. So you've been here for a while now, and the everything's changing. The phenomenon, the way it's interacting with me is changing.
yeah,
So the idea that my information changes and the knowledge I gain changes, and I learn more about what happened to me, and that you're always kind of there to help out with that is super helpful. So
yeah,
yeah, much appreciated, man. Just you being here and your whole background, especially that we can, we've had our experiences together with some of this stuff. So yeah, agreed. Yeah, very helpful, man. Really appreciate it.
yeah, man. No, no, yeah. Much love to you.
Much
And
love, buddy. Yeah.
also, what do you have any upcoming events that are going on that people need to be aware of or anything like that?
Um, I don't have, I have just some interviews booked.
Oh,
No events that I can think of. I'm feeling pressure from them to put all that information about the God AI, the progenitor thing, that whole
yeah.
thing. They wanted me to, do that now,
Oh,
which was abnormal actually. They don't really quite do that. So it's very interesting to get that push and yeah, because obviously again that information helps people understand some other aspects of things. So yeah, they want me to do that. That was about it. And then yeah, I'll be going to Contact in the Desert again this year, hanging out in the background. Just this is the way I like to do it, and meet experiencers. Actually, again, this is like one of my most favorite things in the world. It's just meeting experiencers and contactees and the random events that the aliens have done to people, because that's what it all is, right?
yeah.
It's these random events. It's someone. I was at the table, someone's having a dinner with him, and I kept coming. We kept meeting each other, and his whole thing was that he saw the UFO like a kilometer or two away, and he thought it was able to read his thoughts. And I just love these type of like bizarre events, right? It was going down a mountain and he said something out loud and then it reacted and he was like stunned and he was like a logical, normal guy. And all of a sudden the UFO is interacting with him a kilometer or two away. It was like this bizarre event. And then he had a weird paranormal event in his tent. He was camping. The whole thing was while he was camping. And then he had a weird paranormal event in the site. Apparently someone cleaned up the entire site. Like it was a bizarre, but it was like all these logs were strewn everywhere, and then someone had cleaned it up and he felt it had something to do with the UFO and he couldn't understand a thing about what had happened, and that was it. That was his whole experience, and he was turned on to UFOs after that. Couldn't figure it out, wants to know what this is all about, and it's just like that, man. The UFO phenomenon just, it interacts with people in these very tiny nuanced ways. If it's not a full-blown contactee or an experiencer who's had like these type of weird experiences all their lives, you get this very nuanced stuff. And I just love the way the phenomenon does this. It interacts with individuals very tiny and just leaves these life-changing events in their minds. And then they are talking about it at a conference with me. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. Part of the enjoyment of interacting with people that are experiencers is that you get into these wonderful conversations and deep talks about just spirituality, and how it is to having this human experience and having these strange events happen, and yeah, meeting so many colorful people, and it's just I love it as well. It's
Yeah.
it's like it's so life giving, and I think as time goes on, as an experiencer and knowing that like how diverse everything can be, I found myself more looking into when people tell their experiences, strange experiences, very different experiences, that there's appreciating the details, appreciating the diversity of it, and looking into like, well, what does that mean for that person? Like, what does that mean to like, their soul? Like, you know, what angles are they in, meeting that person with? You know, and yeah, I don't know. There's just the more time goes on, it's less about it's less about what details are correct necessarily, but it's like what the experience is for the person, and
Yeah.
then what does that do for the person moving forward
Yeah.
in that evolution.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Awesome, man.
cool, awesome.
Great, Daniel. Thanks for being here, buddy. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome, man. Okay.
Appreciate
Well,
it.
yeah, that's good, man. It's been going 2 hours. So yeah, we'll call it quits for everybody here. Thanks everybody for watching and hanging out
Thanks
with
for
me and
joining, everyone.
Daniel. Okay, take care.